This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and we're currently out front of the BC Court of Appeals for what very well may be the most important case I've ever covered when it comes to parental rights in this country. And joining me right now is Angelina Ireland of the People's Party of Canada. Now, Angelina, this is potentially, as we said last week, a precedent-setting case. Now, for anybody who might not be familiar with what this father here in British Columbia is dealing with, maybe we could just briefly start with what brought us to getting to this point today.
Right. This is ground zero for the decimation of parental rights in Canada. The BC Supreme Court has convicted the father of family violence for misgendering his child, female-born child. He's gone through the BC Supreme Court. He has lost every trial that he's been in. The government has taken his child and is experimenting on him, giving the child testosterone against the parents' wishes, against the father's will. So we brought it to this point today. We're at the BC Court of Appeals. This is the highest court in British Columbia, and it's going to be at least a 2 to 3 day trial. And the People's Party of Canada is here, and we are going to stand as a witness, and we are going to give testimony each day after the trial is ended until the very end, and let you know what's happening.
When it comes to testosterone being issued to a young girl, how is that not experimenting with with humans? How is that not the government experimenting with people? Could it essentially be described as that?
Of course it is, because we don't know the ramifications of this on the long term. We do know that the child will be sterilized. We do know that she will have, her voice will be lowered, she'll have facial hair. These things don't go away, right? These are permanent occurrences happening with the treatment that she's going to be receiving. So, and she's been on this for treatment since February, I believe. Right.
Now, I believe the charge was family violence that this man would potentially be charged with. And is he facing arrest should he speak out about what's going on with his daughter at the arm of the state?
Absolutely. I mean, he's been warned that he will go to jail. Right, so he cannot speak to anyone other than his lawyers. He's allowed to speak to his lawyers. He cannot speak to anybody else about this case. There is nothing this man can do. He must internalize everything. It's been a torture for him. So we're here today, and we're going to see how this whole thing transpires.
This current Liberal government under Justin Trudeau doesn't seem to be focusing on parental rights. In fact, seems to be moving in the opposite direction. What does the People's Party of Canada have to say about this particular case? Because we do have a couple of banners set up here out front of the courtroom trying to raise awareness about this case on behalf of the People's Party of Canada. So what's their position when it comes to this?
Well, we're supportive of parental rights. In fact, I'm a candidate for the People's Party of Canada in Delta, and I have my colleagues here today too. We have 3 other PPC candidates from Burnaby South, from New West Burnaby, and from Richmond Centre. And each one of us here is standing for parents who I believe should be a protected group, because the government is coming into our families and trying to teach our children values, taking our children against our will. And we as a group, as parents, need to have protection from the government to stop them from attacking our children.
Now, today is just another battle in a long line of battles that this man has been fighting. What is he hoping to achieve with what's going to be going on in there today?
Well, he wants the judges, and I believe there are going to be 3. He wants the judges to listen to his evidence, to listen to his experts, and to give him a fair trial. Up until this point, they have just disregarded his experts, and that's completely patently unfair. And so he needs to be heard. He needs to have his voice within the courts. He needs to be heard about the damage that will happen to his child. And should this child grow up and decide that is not perhaps what they thought it was going to be, and maybe they'd like to detransition, he's concerned about the damage that will be done to this child's body.
Rightly so. I mean, any parent should be. And what kind of coverage would you say this has been receiving so far, specifically from the mainstream media outlets who have kind of come around? There's potentially a few here now. What have you seen that they're saying about this?
I think it's been totally one-sided, and it's been against the father. He's been demonized in the mainstream media, I think completely unfairly. He never had any issue with transgender people or people that belong to the LGBTQ ever. His only issue was that he wanted time for his child to be able to grow up. He wanted time for her to go through puberty to ensure that this is in fact what the course that you wanted to pursue for her whole entire life. And as being a mother of teenager, I'll tell you right now, they believe one thing one day, and the next it's a very different story. So we just want the opportunity for this kid to grow up and then decide if in fact that's the kind of course that they want to pursue.
And for other parents out there who may be potentially going through similar things, is there any maybe words of advice or suggestions you could have for them or society in general here in Canada moving forward when it comes to dealing with this growing issue?
It is. I mean, I just, have the avenues of communication open always with your children. You need to know what's going on with them. And, one of the saddest parts of this whole story was this father did not even know about this transitioning thing. He had to figure it out from the school's yearbook. His child had a different name in the yearbook. I mean, parents and teachers, we are partners in the raising of our children, and it is not for the state or the agents of the state to take over and push parents out of the picture.
So school counselors were aware of the gender dysphoria that this child was feeling before the father was. Is there any evidence of the counselors or the schools or the teachers suggesting that transitioning is the way to go?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I can't comment on that. I just know that, they were a partner in the transition before the father was a partner, right?
And let's not forget, after that, the child decided she wanted to take hormones to begin the actual physical process of changing genders, but he was also pushed out of that process as well, right? He tried to have his say against the doctors doing this, and he wasn't allowed to, right? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, he was sent a letter from the BC Children's Hospital back in December of 2018, and that's how I got to know the father. And that letter basically said you're completely irrelevant to the medical care of your child. It was the most draconian, kind of Orwellian letter I've ever seen produced by a government agency in this country. And it basically told him, we don't need your consent, or we don't need your approval, and we are going to be following through with this. The child can decide on their own what it is they want to do.
Unbelievable that we've come to that point in this country, but here we are, folks, and this is why we need to come out to events like this. This is why we need to support the People's Party of Canada in particular, because they're the only party who are willing to even touch this precedent-setting case. So we need to support Angela. We need to support any party that's really going after this, because as I said, when it comes to parental rights in this country, I mean, this is potentially ground zero. So where can people go to learn more from the party and from yourself when it comes to this case? You've been following it since the beginning, so how can they follow you?
Right, you can go to the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. That's the website for the People's Party. I have a website, it's aireland.ca, and we need people to stand. I mean, this is the kind of an issue where to say nothing is to be complicit. We need people to say things, we need people to stand up and say parents have the right, just like the Canada being the signatory to the UN Declarations of the Child and the UN Declarations of Human Rights, parents have a right to raise their children without undue interference from the state. And this is a violation of that. Canada is in contravention of that declaration that we signed many years ago. People need to say something.